So Google have finally announced that they have got rid of third-party cookies. So what does this mean? They are quite late to the party actually. A lot of major browsers such as Safari and Mozilla have already abandoned third-party cookies. And the reason for that is because third-party cookies have been under a lot of heat recently, especially with privacy laws around the world, especially around Europe as well with GDPR and the e-privacy directive, really focusing on cookies and other tracking technologies. And you've probably seen a lot of cookie banners on websites as well, where they're actively asking for your consent for them to drop certain types of cookies. So third-party cookies are the ones that most companies and most people will be worried about, because these are the cookies that track you all over the internet and can build really complete profiles about you, about everything you do online. So Google are moving away from this, which is, you can understand why they're the last to do it, because they've made so much money out of third-party advertising. Their ads are based on third-party cookies and they can service them to wherever you are online. So it's a big part of their monetary network. So why would they abandon third-party cookies? So before we answer that question, are cookies the only things that can track you online? Well, no. There are other tracking technologies that have also been around for a long time. So within the browser itself, there are things like Web SQL, IndexedDB, local storage, which have the ability to track you within your browser itself. And there are other tracking technologies such as pixel trackers that are commonly in emails and web beacons. So there are other types of technologies. We've focused a lot on cookies, but in reality, there are lots of methods to track you. And your browser signals information as well to websites and gives away things like your location, your language, your IP address. And some of those things are key in order to service the appropriate content. So Google have introduced Floc, the Federated Learning of Cohorts. So what does this mean? Floc is designed to help advertisers perform behavioral targeting without third-party cookies. A browser with Floc enabled will collect information about its users' browsing habits, then use that information to assign its user to a cohort or group. Users with similar browsing habits, for some definition of similar, would be grouped into the same cohort. Each user's browsers will share a cohort ID, indicating which group they belong to, with websites and advertisers. So how does this Floc system get its data? Well, it's from Google services, their own services. So if you use any of Google's services, such as their Gmail, YouTube, Google Search, so we can see from Google's own privacy policy what types of information they collect. The activity information we collect may include, from Google's perspective, terms you search for, videos you watch, views and interactions with content and ads, voice and audio information, purchase activity, people with whom you communicate or share content, activity on third-party sites and apps that use our services, and your Chrome browsing history. They can also identify your location through a variety of means, using GPS, perhaps on your phone, IP address, sensor data from your device, and information about things near your device, such as Wi-Fi access points, cell towers, and Bluetooth-enabled devices. There are two main privacy problems with Floc that have been identified. One of the key ones is if I already know some personal information about you, i.e. you may log in to my webpage and I know your email address, I may know your address, I might know your first name, your surname, so I know some personal identifiable information about you. Now, because I use Google's Floc as well, I may also know your cohort ID as well. So now I can attribute your cohort ID or your recent browsing activity with your personal identifiable information. So this information has the potential to become public, and that can do considerable harm to those individuals. Specific cohorts may be overrepresented by certain groups. So for example, a very specific cohort may be overrepresented by, let's say, a certain ethnic minority or someone from a very specific religious background. So now, just by selecting certain cohorts, I'm able to identify people on their special categories of information, or what we call their protected categories of information. So this is obviously a very dangerous scenario. Google have published some literature to say that they're trying to avoid these things, and will be, if there are any overrepresented groups in these particular cohorts, that they will adjust the algorithm accordingly. I hope you enjoyed today's content. Please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.